The alarm klaxons tore through Luna Station like a beast's roar. Red lights flashed across the steel corridors, painting everything in a pulse of warning. Admiral Cole Ramirez stood in the command center, his boots planted wide as the giant. Display screens shifted from system diagnostics to a single terrifying truth space above. Earth was no longer empty. They had come. The tactical map blossomed with crimson dots until it looked like blood splattered across the black canvas of space. 400 alien warships, shapes as alien as their makers, drifted in formation. Some looked like jagged knives forged from obsidian. Others, vast silver spires glowing with blue plasma veins. A few defied understanding, entirely living ships that pulsed like beating hearts. Cole felt his throat tighten. The Galactic Council had brought everyone. 15 species, one armada. They weren't here to talk. They were here to end humanity. Confirm sensor lock, Cole ordered, his voice gravel over steel. Confirmed, Admiral. Fleet configuration matches Council War Doctrine full siege posture. Cole's jaw hardened. He turned to the wide-angle feed, where Earth floated serene and fragile against the black. Our home, he thought, our last sanctuary. And now, a target. A voice cracked through the din. Incoming transmission council frequency, universal code. Cole swallowed a curse. On screen, the massive display flickered and resolved into an image that made the room fall silent. An alien towered before them, its flesh the color of molten silver, 6 arms folded like a priest's, eyes burning scarlet. Behind it, the curve of a command dais thrummed with alien runes and light. Voice was cold, processed through a translator that made every word sound like judgment. I am Archon Velisar, speaker for the Galactic Council. Humanity has defied the laws of the civilized galaxy. You have seeded colonies in forbidden systems. You have built weapons beyond your station. You have ignored our decrees. This ends. Now, the command center was silent, but for the steady hum of life support systems. Cole's fists curled at his sides as Velisar continued. You will surrender every colony beyond Sol. You will dismantle your fleets and disarm your arsenals. You will submit to the Council's protection or be erased from existence. Cole's teeth clenched hard enough to hurt. Submit. The word hit like a blade. He leaned closer, eyes burning into the aliens. And if we refuse? Velisar tilted. Its head, 6 arms rising in emotion that might have been a shrug or a promise of death. Refusal will mean annihilation. 48 hours. Comply or perish. The transmission cut. The screen returned to its sea of red dots orbiting Earth, like a noose tightening. The command deck erupted shouts, voices high with fear. Cole raised his hand, and silence fell. His voice was low, dangerous. They think we're weak. In the quiet that followed, he heard his own heartbeat thudding in his ears. For a moment, the weight of it pressed down an entire species hanging by a thread. And then came the memory. A promise made years ago to a boy with bright eyes. If war, Comey's son, I'll be ready. Cole turned sharply. Secure line to the president, now. A moment later, President Eleanor Grant's image filled the secondary holo. Calm as a frozen sea, the leader of Earth stared at him from the White House Situation Bunker. I saw it, she said. No tremor, no panic, only steel. We have 48 hours, Cole said. 48 hours too many for them, Grant replied. Then, leaning closer, activate Helios. Full deployment. Cole hesitated for the briefest second. Once they crossed that line, there would be no return. Helios wasn't defense. It was the kill switch of gods. Before he could answer, another image blinked into existence. Dr. Arya Sloan. Eyes like midnight storms, voice cold as vacuum. I've already begun, she said. Cole met her gaze through the screen. You're certain? Her lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. If we do this, she whispered, there's no going back. The words lingered in the silent command center, heavier than any klaxon. Outside the station, the stars burned cold, and among them, 400 alien warships waited for humanity to kneel. Humanity wasn't going to kneel. Asterisk. The klaxons were silent now, but Luna Station thrummed like a living heart. Every corridor, every chamber pulsed with movement. Men and women in dark uniforms sprinted through the polished steel halls, clutching datapads and weapons. The mask of peace humanity had worn for 50 years was falling away, one panel, one seal, one hidden. Hangar at a time, Admiral Cole Ramirez stood in the war room, hands gripping the edge of the central console. Around him, tactical officers called out updates, their voices clipped and precise. The great screen above still showed the alien fleet, 400 warships hanging like a wall of iron around Earth. The Council believed those ships meant absolute power. They had no idea. Helios command reporting, an officer said, voice taut with controlled urgency. Planetary defense grids are charging. Quantum nodes are online. Deep strike fleets are moving to dark positions. Cole didn't answer. Immediately, his gaze drifted to the Earth below, blue and green and heartbreakingly small. 48 hours, the alien had said. 48 hours for humanity to crawl. 48 hours before the fire began. They think they're giving us time to surrender, Cole murmured, more to himself than anyone else. They're giving us time to sharpen the knife. A voice like ice came through the private channel in his earpiece. Admiral Ramirez. Dr. Aria Sloane's tone could have cut glass. He switched to secure link, her image blooming in the eyes. Air before him. She was in the Helios core chamber, the glow of reactor light casting her face in a golden halo. Her black hair was tied back, her lab coat bearing the Helios insignia, a rising sun burning through darkness. Status? Cole asked. Helios protocols Alpha through Delta are green, Aria said, eyes gleaming. Phase 1 assets are moving into deployment zones. We'll be ready before the deadline. Before? Cole raised an eyebrow. We don't wait for them to strike, she said flatly. We make the first move. Cole hesitated. Helios wasn't just a plan. It was a promise humanity had whispered to itself for half a century. Never again, never weak, never prey. It was more than defense. It was retribution forged into steel and plasma. He remembered the first time he'd heard the name Helios. 20 years ago, sitting in a closed chamber deep under Mars, listening to Aria outline the unthinkable. Stealth arsenals hidden beneath cities. Colonies built as fortresses disguised as farms. Weapon systems that bent physics like clay. It had sounded like paranoia then. Now it sounded like prophecy. Do it, Cole said. The faintest smile touched her lips. Already in motion. The channel cut, and Cole exhaled slowly. Around him, Luna's war room had transformed into something unrecognizable. Civilian engineers stripped their badges and took up rifles. Technicians keyed in codes that unlocked silos buried under oceans, mountains, and moons. For decades, humanity had played the role of the polite newcomer in a galactic order older than its oldest ruins. For decades, they'd nodded and obeyed, all while digging in their claws. Admiral, Captain Yara Keene said, striding to his side, her uniform immaculate, her expression grim. Fleet Command reports all outer colonies have gone to black mode. Civilian traffic ceased. Civil defense bunkers sealed. Cole nodded. And the sleeper fleets? Awakening. There was a savage glint in her eyes. Sir, I've seen the manifests. Those ships shouldn't exist. They do, Cole said. And they're ours. Across human space, lights. or going out. Civilian broadcasts turned to static. Quiet mining stations powered down, masking their signatures. And beneath those silent shells, titanic engines roared awake in caverns carved by drills that had pretended to dig for ore. On Titan, the ice plains cracked open as the carrier Vigilant Dawn clawed its way toward the stars. In the black gulfs, beyond Neptune, an armada of ghost ships slid free from hidden docks, their hulls drinking starlight until they vanished like ink in water. Helios was never a myth. It was the heartbeat under every treaty signature, the shadow behind every smiling envoy. For 50 years, humanity had smiled and built gardens by day while forging swords by night. A young officer approached, pale under the crimson lights. "Admiral, global networks are unstable. People are asking questions." Panic's starting. Cole looked at him, a man barely older than his son. "Let them wonder," he said. "In 2 days, they'll understand." This was never about surrender. His gaze swept back to the display, the Council fleet still waiting, patient, certain of its victory. They thought humanity was an upstart child. They thought 400 ships could frighten Earth into chains. "They're wrong," Cole whispered. "They have no idea what we've become." Far across the system, in the quiet dark where stars burned cold, a fleet moved without sound or signal. Thousands of warheads armed themselves like seeds of fire. And deep inside the Helios core chamber, Dr. Arya Sloan stood before a console. That glowed like a sun. "Phase 1 complete," she murmured to the empty room. Her reflection stared back, eyes like obsidian shards. "Phase 2 begins at 0300. Her hand hovered over a single key, pulsing red. "If we do this," she said, softly, as if Cole could still hear her, "there's no going back." Then she pressed it. Asterisk, asterisk. The dawn over New Kyoto burned crimson, though the sun had nothing to do with it. Colonel Rafe Tanaka stood on the balcony of the command spire, his hands curled around the cold steel railing. Below him, the colony stretched like a jewel across. A valley, a city of glass towers and shimmering gardens, designed to show the galaxy that humans could build beauty, not just war. For decades, it had been the pride of the outer frontier. Now, it was bait. The sky split open with a soundless flash, and the stars warped as 15 alien battle cruisers tore free of hyperspace. They hung in the upper atmosphere like predators, each the size of a city block, their hulls gleaming with mirrored alloy and veins of burning blue light. Weapons arrays glowed with power. "Sir," a voice cracked over the comm, taut with fear, "the Zenthari task force is here." "There?" Broadcasting demands. "Put it through." A holographic window opened before Rafe, shimmering with static before resolving into an image of a Zenthari warlord. The alien skin was lacquered obsidian, its segmented body coiled like a serpent in ceremonial armor etched with cruel glyphs. Its voice slithered through the translator, every word dipped in disdain. "Human commander," it hissed, "you will power down your defenses, surrender your population, and prepare for assimilation. Resist, and your colony will be ash." Rafe almost laughed. He imagined the alien smugness, the certainty that humanity was still the fragile child species it had met 50 years ago. He keyed the comm and spoke in a voice cold as deep space. "Tell your fleet," Rafe said, "we don't do ash." He cut the link before the alien could reply. Behind him, the blast door slid open, and Lieutenant Mara Ellison stepped in, her flight suit streaked with engine grease, her short blonde hair plastered to her forehead. "Sir," she said, her tone a mixture of dread and anticipation, "is it time?" Rafe turned. His eyes were steel. "Activate Defense Plan Alpha." For a heartbeat, the control room froze. Then the order rippled outward like a shockwave. Sirens wailed, klaxons throbbed, and a single coded signal leapt from New Kyoto into the hidden arteries of its heart. The city began to change. Paved streets yawned open, swallowing civilian vehicles as armored hatches slid into place. Tower spires cracked apart, their elegant glass facades folding inward like origami to reveal cannons that shimmered with raw power. Gardens bled steam as armored plates erupted from beneath the soil, shielding fusion reactors buried deep below what the Zenthari saw from orbit was still a city. But inside, New Kyoto was becoming a fortress. Shields online, barked Commander Amani from the lower deck. Power routing at 100%. On the horizon, the alien warlord moved first. A beam of searing blue light lanced downward, striking the colony's primary fusion plant with the fury of a newborn star. The ground trembled, and fire blossomed into a towering inferno, then collapsed into nothing as the beam shattered harmlessly against an invisible barrier. Rafe's comms officer let out a strangled laugh. Their guns can't even scratch the shield. The Zenthari warlord didn't understand. How could it? For centuries, its species had dominated a galaxy of cowards and pacifists. It had never faced prey that built its homes as weapons. The alien gave the order every conqueror gives when arrogance turns to fear. Destroy everything. 15 battle cruisers opened fire. The sky became a furnace, streaked with a rain of burning plasma. Towers disintegrated. Mountains shook, but the colony held. The energy barriers shimmered like molten glass, unbroken, and then, with a sound like the tearing of worlds, humanity struck back. The first shot came from the hills, where quiet green slopes folded apart like the petals of some vast iron flower. From the heart of each, a railgun rose, its barrel longer than a cathedral, its coils glowing with power. They fired in sequence 12 thunderclaps that shattered the sky. Tungsten slugs screamed upward at 30 kilometers per second, punching through alien shields like paper and ripping holes the size of stadiums through Zenthari hulls. The second wave came from below, missile silos hidden under the colonies. Streets. They vomited fire as hundreds of black darts leapt toward the heavens, each one a predator armed with a nuclear heart and an AI brain. They swarmed through space like a school of hungry sharks, outthinking every alien countermeasure, twisting and dodging with impossible precision. The first Zenthari cruiser died in a blossom of white fire. Then another, and another. In the command spire, Rafe watched as the crimson dots on his tactical screen winked out one by one. On the edge of orbit, Lieutenant Mara's squadron roared into the black. 20 fighters, matte black and dagger-shaped, cut through vacuum-like shadows, their engines leaving trails of silver light. They danced between the alien ships, moving as though bound by a single mind, firing plasma lances and smart munitions that bent their own trajectories mid-flight. Above New Kyoto, death bloomed silently. In 19 minutes, 15 alien ships, built to erase worlds, were reduced to drifting carcasses of molten steel and glowing debris. When the last one died, Lieutenant Mara's voice crackled over the comm. It was soft, almost reverent. "They're not gods," she whispered. "They bleed." Rafe looked up at the sky, at the embers falling like stars over his city. He keyed the secure channel to Fleet Command. "Message to Luna," he said, voice steady. "First alien assault repelled. Enemy force annihilated. Zero tolerance confirmed. We're ready for the next wave." Far beyond the colony, in the cold black of deep space, a new order stirred hidden fleets, whispering through the void, human weapons humming with patient fury. The war had begun, and humanity had just shown the galaxy its teeth. Asterisk at 0300 hours. The galaxy changed forever. Admiral Cole Ramirez stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, orbiting high above Luna, staring at the tactical hollow blooming before him like a flower made of fire. Dozens of red dots, alien fleets clustered around human space, scattered like wolves circling prey. They thought they owned the night. They thought humanity was still huddled in the dark, waiting to be devoured. They were wrong. Cole's voice was calm, almost too calm, as he gave the order that had been decades in the making. Execute Phase 2. All units, all sectors. For a heartbeat, the galaxy held its breath. Then it burned. Across the void, human fleets erupted from shadow. Ships that had never appeared on any alien sensor. Ships the Council believed couldn't exist, now bled from the black like ghosts tearing holes in reality. They moved in silence, their matte black hulls drinking starlight, their drives masked by quantum distortion fields. On the far edge of the Centauri expanse, an alien convoy ferrying reinforcements to the Xanthari front disintegrated in 30 seconds, erased by a dozen human stealth cruisers dropping out of slipspace at knife-fight range. No warning, no parley. Just annihilation. In the Owlery Rift, the Council's weapons depot went nova when Helios strike teams deployed their new toy singularity lances. Weapons that bent space-time like paper and folded entire defense grids into glittering debris. And on the dead moon of Kistara Prime, Black Ops Unit 7, force whispered about even among humans, slipped into the Council's central command node and unleashed something far deadlier than bombs. Silence. They burned their comm networks, wiped their encryption chains, left their admirals screaming into dead channels as their fleets died blind. Cole watched it all unfold, his jaw tight, his voice low when he spoke. Status report. Phase 2. Complete across all sectors, said Captain Yara Keen, her voice steady, but her eyes bright with something like awe. 12 Council worlds hit. 37 military installations neutralized. 0 human casualties. Cole exhaled through his nose, a controlled measure of relief. But inside, he felt the weight of what they had just done. The Council thought they were ready for a war of attrition, for sieges and slow-burning blockades. They thought humanity would dig in and cling to life. Instead, humans had ripped the playbook from their hands and set it on fire. Now the Council wasn't hunting humanity. Humanity was hunting them. In the Helios core chamber, far below the lunar surface. Dr. Aria Sloan watched the feeds cascade across her monitor's alien stations burning. Defense fleets collapsing under the weight of weapons they didn't even understand. A glow of the reactor haloed her face as she whispered to herself. They wanted a war. We'll give them an extinction. Behind her, the Helios device pulsed like a star caught in chains, its core alive with energy stolen from quantum tides. Phase 2 was only the beginning. Phase 3. That was where gods were born. She keyed a secure channel to Cole. Admiral, she said, her voice like sharpened steel. Helios core is green, awaiting authorization for full activation. Cole hesitated for the briefest instant. Helios wasn't a weapon. It was an idea made manifest. An instrument so far beyond the laws of war that no human alive had dared to imagine it used. Until now, his hand hovered over the console as voices from another. Life echoed in his mind. The laughter of his son, the promises of peace he'd once believed in. Then he saw the Hala again, alien fleets dying, human banners rising, and the choice was clear. Proceed, he said. Arya smiled without warmth. Understood. Phase 3 begins at dawn. While human fleets struck like shadows, the galaxy convulsed in chaos. Council species clawed at each other, shouting blame, their unity unraveling like rotten thread. Encrypted transmissions intercepted by Human A painted a picture of terror. Admirals begging for reinforcements that would never come. Warlords turning on their allies. Entire sectors going silent as human hunters closed in. But for all the victories, Cole felt the cost the shift that could never be undone. Humanity wasn't defending anymore. Humanity was conquering. Every strike made that truth harder to ignore. As the final report came in, another weapons factory, burning on the fringes of the Rhythian space. Cole turned to the observation deck, watching Earth spin below, blue and beautiful and utterly changed. His reflection in the glass stared back, eyes hollowed by the weight of command. "God help us," he murmured. "We're becoming the thing they feared." Behind him, alarms chimed softly, not warnings, but confirmations. Fleet after fleet, reporting success. Enemy resistance collapsing like a dying star. And in the dark heart of Luna, the Helios core sang with power, its glow painting the chamber in hues of judgment. The fire had spread, and nothing in the galaxy could stop it now. Asterisk, when the Kepler yards died, the galaxy understood what fear truly was. Admiral Cole Ramirez stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, his boots heavy against the steel deck, as the largest holographic projection ever rendered bloomed before him. It filled the command chamber in shifting hues of red and gold. The Kepler yards, heart of the Council's military machine, floating like a city of steel in the cold void. It was beauty and terror entwined, massive construction rings orbiting. A pale blue star, each one crawling with skeletal frameworks of dreadnoughts, still in the womb. "How many confirmed hulls?" Cole asked, without turning his gaze from the HOLO. Captain Yara Keen's voice was taut. 200 in assembly, sir. 50 warships fully armed and operational. Perimeter defense grid, active and heavily layered. The Council brought everything they had left. Cole nodded once. They would need it, because this was the line there. Last sanctuary, their final hope to crush humanity's uprising and remind the galaxy who ruled. Too late? Fleet status? He asked. All strike groups in position, Yara said, eyes flicking across tactical data. 800 ships. Every ghost asset deployed. Her mouth curved, grim and savage. They don't see us, sir. Not yet. Cole let out a breath. He hadn't realized he'd been holding 50 years of lies, 50 years of digging and building in the shadows, all for this moment. The Council thought they were about to wage a war of attrition. They didn't understand. Humans didn't play to survive. They played to win. His implant chimed. A private channel blinked into being, and Dr. Arya Sloane's face materialized in a halo of amber light. She stood in the Helios core chamber, deep beneath Luna's bedrock, and for the first time, Cole thought her eyes looked almost inhuman, lit by the glow of the weapon she had birthed. Phase 3 is ready, she said softly. No preamble. No pretense. Authorization? Cole's jaw clenched. Not yet. Her eyebrow arched. You still want to fight this by conventional means? Conventional? He glanced at the Hala, at the shadow fleets waiting in silence beyond alien. Sensors. What we're about to do isn't conventional by any metric. Give me an hour. If we bleed too much. His voice hardened. Then we light the sun. Understood, Arya said. Her image faded, leaving him alone with the weight of the choice. He turned back to his crew. Signal all task forces, he said. Begin the strike. For one heartbeat, the void was silent. Then it screamed. 800 human ships shed their cloaks in unison, erupting from shadow like predators from the deep. Their drives flared silver against the darkness, weapons arrays spooling up with a hum that resonated. Like the pulse of war. The alien defense grid blinked red, too late. By the time the first Council sensors screamed warning, the sky was already on fire. Engage, Cole growled. Ghost fleets surged forward, their hulls glimmering like black knives, cutting through the void with impossible grace. Rail slugs streaked, like meteors. Missile swarms howled, weaving through the lattice of alien fire like schools of predators, each one thinking, hunting. Plasma beams crisscrossed the darkness, carving scars of molten light across the skin of reality. The Council's first line broke in 7 minutes. Dreadnoughts, their pride, their apex burst apart under the fury of weapons they'd never imagined. Quantum disruptors that didn't just kill ships, but poisoned their networks. Cascading failures like a chain of fallen dominoes. One alien flagship exploded in a sphere of emerald flame, its death scream echoing across fractured combands before silence swallowed it whole. On the alien command deck, panic bloomed like infection. General Koratha Zenthari Warlord, whose people had ruled half the Orion Arm for centuries, watched his fleet die in chaos. "They're inside our perimeter," he roared. "All ships converge. Kill them." But the humans weren't there to fight fair. They were everywhere and nowhere. Striking, vanishing, striking again. The void became a graveyard of drifting husks, burning with cold fire as pieces of the Council's last hope scattered like ash across the stars. On the iron resolve, Cole gripped the rail, his voice a blade through the storm. "Drive them into the ring structures. Cut their escape." "Yes, sir," Yara said, her eyes fever-bright as she relayed orders. The Kepler yards became a slaughterhouse. Human bombers sleek, black, and silent dove through the skeletal arcs of half-built warships, planting torpedoes that tore entire platforms apart in gouts of molten debris. Fire blossomed against the cold night, each detonation a sun birthing, and dying in seconds. And still the aliens fought. For every 10 ships that died, one clawed back with fury, gouging at human hulls, spitting plasma and rage. Ghost fleets bled too. Cole watched the casualty feed crawl across the hull like a litany of sins. 50 ships gone, 70, 100. Each one a crew he'd sworn to bring home. "Admiral," Yara said softly, eyes on him. "Losses are mounting. Their reinforcements will arrive in 30 minutes. Cole stared at the burning graveyard. The battle wasn't over, but the choice had been made long before this war began. He touched his comm implant. "Dr. Sloan," he said, voice like iron drawn across stone. Her reply came like a blade. "Authorization confirmed?" He closed his eyes for a heartbeat, hearing the echoes of a promise he'd made to his son. "If war comes, I'll be ready." "Yes," he whispered. "Light the sun." Far away, in the Helios core chamber, Arya's hand slid over the final key. For a breath, the chamber was silent. Then the universe tore open above the Kepler yards. Space itself convulsed as the Helios array fired its heart into the void. A bloom of white fire, brighter than any star, erupted from nothing, folding space-time into a shrieking whirlpool of gravity and annihilation. Entire rings shattered, platforms imploded, dreadnoughts broke apart like toys hurled into a furnace. Korath's last transmission was a wordless roar, cut short as his flagship folded in half and vanished into the singularity blooming where they are. Councils might have been. On the Iron Resolve, the bridge was silent, but for the sound of men and women breathing in ragged awe. The Kepler yards, the Council's pride, its hope, its beating heart, was gone, erased in less than 5 minutes. Cole stood unmoving, the glow of dying stars painting his face in hues of ash and fire. "Status," he said. "Target neutralized." Yara whispered. Her hands trembled on the console. "All of it." "Admiral, there's nothing left." Cole nodded slowly, his jaw a line of stone. "Transmit to Fleet Command," he said. "Operation Eclipse complete." Behind his eyes, he could still see it. The sun they'd lit, the world they'd burned. And for the first time since this war began, he felt the weight of what they'd become. "God help us," he murmured. "We just broke the galaxy." The bridge fell silent as the black hole ate the last scraps of the Kepler yards. and in the cold heart of Luna, Dr. Arya Sloan smiled into the glow of her machines. Phase 4 was next. And it would change everything. ChatGPT said. The galaxy was silent. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of something vast and ancient finally breaking. 2 weeks after the Kepler yards vanished into the screaming maw of a singularity, the war that was supposed to last months, years, even was over. Entire fleets had burned. Whole sectors had gone dark. The Galactic Council, that proud assembly of species who once ruled through fear and law, was shattered, its banner reduced to ash. Now, in the ruins of their empire, humanity stood alone. Victorious. Terrifying. Admiral Cole Ramirez walked into the Hall of Accord, deep beneath Luna's crust. It wasn't a hall in truth. It was a chamber of glass and iron, shaped like an inverted dome, where Earth's most secret council waited. Every step Cole took echoed like a gunshot in his ears. His boots felt heavier than any he'd worn in battle. The chamber smelled faintly of ozone and steel. Around the black obsidian table sat 3 people who had pulled the strings of this war from its first whispered breath. President Eleanor Grant, her face carved from stone. General Marcus Vance of Earthfleet Command, all scars and shadows. And at the far end, glowing faintly in the amber light, Dr. Arya Sloan. Cole stopped. For the first time since the war began, he felt truly unsteady. He had fought and killed and bled for Earth, but something about the way Arya's eyes lingered on him now calm, cold, almost triumphant, made his gut twist. "You called me," he said, voice rough. "What's left to say?" "The Council is dead. Their fleets are gone. Every major yard is slag. The war is finished." President Grant leaned forward, her gaze pinning him like a blade. "The war you think we fought," she said softly. "Yes, that war is over." Cole frowned. "What other war is there?" It was Arya who answered. Her voice was silk over iron, every syllable honed. "The real one." She rose, the glow from the Helios sigil stitched into her coat reflecting in her dark eyes. "You think Kepler was the endgame?" "No, Admiral. That was the lever. The point of no return." Cole's fists curled against the table. "Explain, now." Arya smiled faintly, and for a moment it was worse than any scream. "Helios wasn't designed for defense." "Cole, it never was. Not really." He stared at her, the weight of her words slamming through his chest like a rail slug. "Then what the hell did I just authorize?" "The future," she said simply. "The Council feared us, and they were right to. We engineered that fear. Every border skirmish, every colony dispute, every quiet whisper in their chambers. We fed it until they did exactly what we needed." His throat felt dry as old stone. "You're saying we didn't stumble into this war?" "No," Eleanor Grant said, her voice colder than the void. "We built it, brick by brick. The Council gave us the perfect justification for what comes next." Cole's pulse thundered in his ears. "And what is that?" Arya stepped closer, the glow of her datapad casting strange shadows on her face. "Order," she said. "Not their fractured, corrupt dominion. A true order, unified, permanent. Humanity will not just survive this galaxy. Cole, we will own it." Cole felt something tear loose inside him. All the battles, all the sacrifices, all the men and women who had died under his command, they weren't just defending Earth. They were laying the foundation for an empire. He wanted to shout, to deny it, to rip the words from the air. But then he remembered the Helios Core's song, the singularity blooming like a black sun, and he knew. Deep down, he'd known from the first moment Arya said there's no going back. President Grant's voice cut through his thoughts, soft but absolute. "You said it yourself at Kepler. We broke the galaxy. Now we will shape what's left. The Terran Accord drafts are complete. Within the year, every surviving species will kneel or vanish into history. Cole stared at them, his jaw locked, his breath shallow. You turned me into your executioner. Arya tilted her head, eyes like polished obsidian. No, Admiral. We turned you into what you were always meant to be. Behind her, the holodisplay bloomed with the image of 1,000 worlds' alien homeworlds, council capitals, stars burning in cold silence. And over them all, rising like a black crown, the new sigil of the Helios Directive, a golden sun with iron chains radiating outward. You lit the fire, Arya whispered. Now we burn the old order down to ash. Cole's hands trembled against the table. Outside the chamber, the void waited silent, endless, hungry. Humanity had stepped into that darkness and torn the heart out of gods. And as he looked at the architects of it all, Cole realized the final terrible truth. The war hadn't ended, Dot. It had only just begun. The end